Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad you're able to join me today. As you can tell, I'm working from home today. COVID is still very real part of our life. So to keep things socially distant, I've been trying to stay away from the office. So don't mind my background here, getting a little peek into my home office. Tele today, we are talking about questions you should be asking. If you haven't met me before, my name is Craig Gingerich. I'm a certified financial planner, accredited investment fiduciary, and a certified health savings advisor here at Rutty. I have my contact information on screen. Always happy to take questions, help in any way that I can. So today, what are we talking about? Normally, these telecasts are designed to be answers, right? Trying to help you. Today is going to be all questions. And my hope is that if I provide you some questions, maybe these are things you can be asking yourself, asking your advisor, asking Sage Rutty, asking your tax professional, just kind of trying to spur some creative juices and get you thinking. So let's hope that it's much more of useful questions that you should be asking and not incredibly infuriating trying to figure out the answer to like 50 plus questions. So take down whatever questions that you might have. Always happy to answer some if I can be helpful in that way. So I broke it down into 4 categories. The first is cash flow. Then we'll talk about taxes, investing, and then just some general questions, things that I think might be useful in your everyday life. So let's get started with cash flow. If your money was a body, cash flow is that blood that keeps things going. I realize that it's a little lame to be quoting yourself, but there's a quote for each section, and I really like to think about money as kind of the lifeblood that keeps your finances going. So cash flow is the lifeblood. So first piece of cash flow, what spending habits could I be improving upon? First, a big trend that we've been seeing in consumer finance is that a lot of businesses are going to this monthly service model. They like the idea of don't pay us $100 up front. Why don't you pay us $8 every month and keeping that regular cash flow? And it's a really easy way. These like small charges each month is an easy way for you to lose track of it. But it's a good spot to take a look and say, am I really using all of the services? Do I really want to be paying $20 a month for Audible, or should I really stop that? Second is, when did I last shop my major expenses? So what big ticket items have I just been paying rather than shopping them out? Best example I can give is insurance. I'm embarrassed to say that the last time I shopped out insurance 2 years ago, I ended up saving my wife and I $1,200, which just made me question how long have I been overpaying in that time frame. So insurance is a really easy one to be overpaying for because you don't really think about it. If you are going to shop insurance, I always recommend go with a broker that's licensed with every major carrier rather than going directly to Prudential or something where they only have one option. Also, if you haven't done it in a while, there's a lot of age breakpoints that kick in there. So if you or a child that's on your insurance have crossed over 18, 21, or 25, those are really big ones. And more insurance carriers are willing to work with you after those ages. What are the weak points in my spending? We all have an Achilles heel. What things can we just not help but spend money on? And what are ways that we can just avoid ending up in that situation? What should I be automating? And related to that, what should I stop automating? What really good habits do I need to just set on autopilot and make sure are happening? What really bad habits that are on autopilot do I need to stop? Do I need to prevent myself from just doing mindlessly? The second piece of cash flow is, how can I improve cash flow? How can I better it besides just spending habits? The first question you should be asking is, am I saving enough? Am I putting enough away? The second question is, how much debt am I carrying? And should I be paying that down faster? Can I be paying it down faster? And should I? Is it in my best interest to accelerate the original timetable? I have a car loan for 5 years. Is it in my best interest to go to 3 years? Or is it a 0% interest? Am I better off holding for the 5 years and spending it somewhere else? And then the fourth question, and I think this one's really interesting, is why did I get blindsided by insert major expense? Why did I get blindsided by my car breaking down, or just an appliance breaking down, or why did I get blindsided by my kid going to college? Like, why are these major expenses that can be a little bit of a surprise, shouldn't financially be that big of a surprise? So why did I get blindsided? And related to that, should I be saving small portions every paycheck towards those larger expenses? If you're paying your insurance once per year, maybe you need to be breaking that into 12 chunks and save a little bit of that every month, so you're not blindsided by this major expense. You know, because insurance companies like to get paid, cars break down, like washers and dryers and dishwashers and ovens, all of those things break down. You need to be saving a little bit more every month rather than getting blindsided by this large expense. So category 2 of questions, taxes, because person doesn't know how much he has to be thankful for until he has to pay taxes on it. I love this quote from Ann Landers. I think it's perfect. I broke taxes into basically 3 categories. The first is questions on, am I doing this right? So things to ask yourself, what's my marginal tax rate and what's my average tax? So what's my marginal rate? What do I pay on the next dollar that I earn versus what's my average that I pay across all of the dollars that I earn? And then taking those 2 numbers, what do I think those numbers are going to be in the future? My marginal tax rate is 22. My average tax is 15. I bet in 10 years from now, I'm going to be in the 32 and the 20 category. If that's the case, should I try and be paying more taxes now, doing like a Roth, because down the road I'm going to be in a higher bracket? Or is it flip-flopped? And 10 years from now, I'm going to be retired and my tax rates are going to be way lower. I need to be doing everything to avoid current taxes. The 4th question is, am I withholding correctly? So each year when you file your taxes, if you see that you have a major bill or a major refund, maybe you need to consider adjusting how much you're withholding from your paycheck every week, or every 2 weeks, or semi-monthly. And then, am I receiving every credit or deduction that I can? Are there things out there that I could be taking advantage of, but don't really know to look for? Second category of taxes, what am I missing? What's out there that I'm not taking advantage of? First question with that is, am I using the right type of account? If you've watched these telecases, you know I'm a huge believer in make sure I have the right account, right vehicle for my investments is priority number 1. Second question is, if I hit the maximum, say I'm maxing out on my 401k and putting away 19.5 into my 401k, I have a couple options after that. If I still want to be saving, I can go to a taxable account, or I can go into a spouse's retirement account, my wife's 403b, or she doesn't have access to a retirement account. I can have my wife set up a spousal IRA, take advantage of that rather than going into a less tax efficient vehicle. Third question is, if you're itemizing, do you have a coordinated strategy? I was trying to work off of a 3-year strategy for any clients that are itemizing, and that's taking a look and saying, okay, if I'm normally itemizing, would it make sense for me to accelerate deductions into 2020 and then shift over to standard deduction in 2021 and 2022? Should I be balancing and trying to get all of my itemized deductions into just a few tax returns? And maybe the all-encompassing question, should I be working with an accountant? Okay, and then the third category of tax questions, is there anything immediate that I need to do? Is there anything before December 31st or right away that I need to have on my plate? First question is, do you have long-term investments that are generating short-term taxes? Do you hold shares of Johnson & Johnson in a taxable account, and every quarter they're cutting you a check and that shows up on your tax return, but you're not going to use that money for another 20 years? That's a lot of years to be paying income on dividends that are being reinvested. Second is, does it make sense to be selling off any taxable investments before the end of the year? If you're in a 10%, if you're in a 0, 10, or 12% tax bracket, your capital gains rate is 0. Why not take advantage of it? Maybe you're in a tax bracket that it makes sense, sell off your investments and pay 0 taxes. That's a good solution. Third, and often overlooked, did I take advantage of the $300 charitable gift deduction? So if you itemize your taxes, all of your charitable gifts are deductible. If you do a standard deduction, In the Secure Act last year, they added on this clause that says you can do $300 of charitable gifting and still use the standard deduction. So, it's pretty nice when you can have the government subsidize part of your gifting. Never hurts. And then the last question under taxes, does it make sense for me to increase or decrease my taxable income this year? Did I have a gap in employment and now my taxes are low? I should try and increase my income this year? Or was 2020 a really great year for me? I need to look for ways that I can get more deductions. Okay, time for the third category, which is investing. Warren Buffett pointed out, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die. So let's talk about investing a little bit. First category being what account for investing. So the natural question is, am I holding the right investments in the right buckets? Right? Do I have super tax efficient investments in my taxable account? Do I hold everything else in a tax preferred account? Right? Going back to that Johnson & Johnson, if they're paying dividends, hold that in a pre-tax or a Roth account because you don't want to pay taxes on it. If you hold a super growth oriented stock, maybe your taxable account's the right spot for it, as you're only going to have to pay capital gains, which are a lower rate rather than ordinary income. Second, and probably the most common question I've received recently, should I be investing part of my HSA? That's a really great question. And third, should I consolidate things? Do I have several accounts out there that really aren't serving a huge purpose to have separately? Should I just have them all together? Second category of investing, what securities? Do you know what you own? Are you diversified, and are you duplicating in your diversification? If you hold 5 different funds, typically you think, okay, I'm diversified. But if all 5 funds are large cap US growth funds, well, then you're not diversified. You're holding 5 different versions of the same thing. Fourth, does my allocation reflect my time frame? Is how I'm invested, how I'm supposed to be invested? If I'm spending this money for my child's education next year, probably don't want it to be all in one stock, right? I probably want it to be a little more conservative. Or if I'm retiring in 40 years, do I really need to have cash and bonds in my 401k account right now? The fifth question there, am I getting value for the fees that I'm paying? And that's at a couple levels. Am I getting value on the security that I'm holding? So if you are choosing between an index fund and an actively managed fund, index funds are really cheap and you return basically what the market does. Active funds are a little more expensive, but if you have a good manager, they can earn their fees. And what we've seen in 2020, a lot of active managers have taken advantage of that volatility and earned their fees. They just take a look and say, am I paying more and getting less? That's not really a good trade-off. And the same goes for any advisor, any accountant, any funds that you're holding on to, a brokerage account, right? Whatever vendor you have, are you getting the value for the fees that you're paying? The third category of investing questions, to what end? What is my time frame? How much do I need by the end of that time frame? And am I doing the right things to be on track for that? And I added a bonus on here. What's my plan if the market drops 35%? So does that change what my time frame? Does it change what my strategy looks like? So these are kind of the basic blocking and tackling around saving for retirement, but good questions to be asking. Now, know that I'm going quickly. I apologize. We're on to our fourth section, general questions. We live in a world that our questions create. Our general questions I've broken into 2 categories. First is money related. If you had an unexpected expense, do you need to take on debt to cover it? Is your emergency fund large enough? Second, are there ways for you to be earning extra income? Is your hobby something that you could be selling the product of it? Or could you be doing a side hustle? Do you have extra time on your hands? Can you be increasing your income? And then third, is there gifting that you want to be doing? Is there a charity that you think is really important and has gone through a rough year? Should you be doing some giving? Should you be helping them out this year? And the last is, when's the last time you looked at your estate plan? It's really common to say, I created my will 20 years ago, haven't taken a look at it. In the meantime, I've had 5 kids and 4 divorces and it's just a mess, right? go back, take a look at your estate plan. If it's more than, I typically say more than 5 years, or if you've had life events, maybe it's time to revisit it. Maybe it's time to redo that whole estate plan. The second category is what else, and this is goals related. So I like to pose the question, especially this time of year leading up to a new year, how do you define success? Where do you want to be in 5 years? And are you taking the steps to do so? Along those lines, I really, my favorite thing, instead of having like New Year's resolutions of exclusively what do I want to start doing, I always like to do what do I want to stop doing? We're all working from a finite amount of time and energy and focus. So if you're adding things in 2021, maybe you need to also consider what things am I going to stop doing to free up the time, money, and attention to be able to do the things that I want. So the last piece, one little bonus, and someone shared it with me. I think it was in a book that I read. So I don't know who to appropriately give credit to, but it really helped me change what I focus on. And it's a little matrix here. So what you'll see is on the y-axis is whether it's important or not important. On the x-axis is whether it's urgent or not urgent. In the category of urgent, let's see if we can get it. In the category of urgent and important are things that definitely get done. So these are the things that are on fire. You absolutely need to take care of. If you're not doing it, there's going to be hell to pay. In the not urgent, not important category, these are the time wasters. This is just things like, playing a game on your phone or just taking a minute for yourself. And, not urgent, not important, not really life-changing. The difference between these two is what I've found to be the biggest impact on life. How you decide between the urgent, not important, and the not urgent, important. The urgent, not important is all the things that beep and buzz and vibrate and flash, all the things that are grabbing for our attention, but really at the end of the day, don't make that big of a difference. So the best example I can give, if you're answering emails at the dinner table with your family, it typically falls in the urgent, not important category, right? It dings and vibrates, and so you check your phone, but the truth is it's not important enough to ignore the important thing of dinner with your family. The not urgent and important, I'd argue, are the most defining things in our life. So if you take a look back over your lifetime, what things have had the biggest positive impact on you, or what things that you wished that you would have done to put you in a better spot today, they typically fall in the not urgent, important category. Things like going back to school, working on yourself, working out, eating better, focusing on projects that would have a really big impact for you, taking time to read, taking time to stretch, all of these things that they never feel urgent, but they're so important. They're so defining of your life. So I just recommend, as you're trying to make priorities, as you're trying to figure out where to focus your time, money, energy, think about that balance between the not urgent and important and the urgent, not important, and where you want to spend that energy. So I'll finish, as always, with thank you. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for the business and trust that you place with me and that you place with Sage Rutty. We certainly do not take that lightly. I'm happy to take any questions, or I should say maybe I'm happy to take any answers, kind of Jeopardy style, after all the questions I pose. Feel free to use the chat function, the Q&A function on here. I'm happy to help any way I can with general questions. If you have more specific questions, I'll offer, you have access to free objective expert advice. That's what you're getting through Sage Rutty, free objective expert advice. It's so common to get one or two of the three. It's rare to get all three. A lot of times if people are giving you free advice, it's worth what you're paying for. Because it's a benefit wrapped into your 401k, it's free, it's objective, and it's expert. Take advantage of it. Happy to help any individual questions. If anything that I brought up today sparks, hey, I should really be asking that, I'm happy to help. My email's on the screen, my first initial last name at Sage Rutty, or my phone number, 585-512-2385. Again, I thank you for your time. I thank you for the business and trust that you place with me and Sage Rutty. happy to take questions and hope that everyone has a very nice holiday season.